In this episode, we're going to dive into our sweet new 4,000 watt inverter charger solar controller combination unit by a company called Sungoldpower. If you missed last episode when we drove across Florida and met the infamous Sailboat Story channel and picked up this sweet blue bundle of joy while checking out this really cool spring-fed pool and waterfall in Green Cove Springs, then I recommend you watch it. I'll put the link up right here. So for those of you who may not know what an inverter charger is, it's a piece of equipment that converts DC power from batteries and turns it into AC power. So you can basically run regular house devices and appliances off of your batteries. It also works backwards and uses AC shore power to charge your batteries. Now some inverters have AC outlets right on the side of them, so you can plug one or two devices into them at a time, but bigger inverters usually have places for wiring in and out. In our case, I wanted to take all 11 outlets on the boat and wire them through the inverter, so every outlet on the boat is pretty much usable anytime the inverter is on. I'll show you in the video exactly how I accomplished this. There are plenty of inverters you can buy that have different input and output voltages, but in our case, the battery side is 12 volt DC and the house outlet side is 120 volt AC. I read some pretty good reviews on these inverters, but I still wanted to take a peek inside the cover just to see the build quality for myself. What I found was a bunch of wires and boards and stuff. So this particular inverter charger also has a built-in charge controller for solar. We have just picked up a 400 watt panel and we're going to be installing it over our dinghy davits in the back of the boat. That will be for a future episode, FYI, but the nice thing is the panel basically gets wired right to the inverter. Alright, let's get into actually installing this thing. Remember when I failed at the first battery box? Well, the material is going to good use. I ended up using it for mounting all of our DC bus bars and fuse blocks, mounting our ACR charging relay for both battery banks and our external regulator for the alternator, and most importantly, mounting our new inverter charger. We chose to install this thing on the inside wall of our engine compartment and through-bolt it with about a dozen stainless nuts, bolts, and washers. The starboard material should help spread the load and also help with ventilation on the backside of the inverter. Measure twice and don't drill into the floor. Holes are drilled, and because this thing weighs almost 80 pounds, I'm going to try to mount one of these right here first because I need to be able to squeeze it in here for the length of the bolts to fit. Pickup in the plan, our 2-inch bolts are not going to be long enough. They are going to be long enough, I believe, for the outside, but not the inside. We need some 3-inch ones for sure, and maybe some 3.5. So we're just going to go buy a few extra and be back tomorrow. So, well, you don't want to leave?
She wants to do her nails tomorrow with me.
You all right? You okay? Yeah. This would be the very first time I completely fit myself in the engine compartment, and all I can say is it was very awkward getting this thing mounted up. But we did it.
Go through? Yeah. I'm gonna put that on. And the nut.
I'm very thankful to have help from all these lovely ladies in my life, and thankful for the fact that they're not afraid to get their hands dirty. This inverter sparked the beginning of a long, long wiring road, starting with all new battery wiring, fuses, distribution blocks, spools of all kinds of wire from 16 gauge all the way up to 4/0. I'm going to keep this video mostly about the inverter, but I will go into more detail about all the wiring stuff in the next episode. So from the bus bar and the fuse, I got the 4/0 going and the ground going to the ground bus bar. Got those already hooked up there. Now I'm working on the AC input and outputs. I have one 10-3 wire that's going to be going to the outlet breakers. In order to get all of our outlets in the boat connected to our inverter here, I already have the AC out wires running over here. I will be splitting up our AC, the outlet circuits here. Our main hot bus bar, I just cut it. So I separated our bus bar for the 2 outlet breakers. So once all is said and done, our wire that's coming from the inverter AC out, the hot wire, is now going to power just these two outlet breakers. So when we're on shore power, the AC comes in, loops through the inverter. It's just a pass-through to the outlets. And when we're offshore power, the inverter just powers these two breakers. I also have pretty much all new bus bars for all this, as I've already replaced the DC bus bar for the ground. I'm going to replace the AC ground and neutral bus bars with maybe this one of these two. One thing I will bring up about this inverter is it's not specifically a marine unit. The biggest thing this really has to do with is the way the neutral and ground bonding is done. So in order to safely wire up this inverter to all of the outlets, I had to do two things. Find and separate all of the neutral wires from the outlets and put them on a separate bus bar. And second, I had to figure out how to bond the neutral and the ground at the inverter when we're not on shore power, like a marine unit would do automatically. I did try to wire up a contactor, which is basically a relay, to create this bond automatically when we disconnected from shore power, but I didn't like the buzzing sound that it created, and in the end, I settled on creating this bond manually with a switch that can handle the amperage.
What are you doing?
I'm fixing the Morse code thing. Look.
Don't do that! It's gonna shock you! SOS.
This is not the Morse code thing. Lastly, we had to mount the remote control display that came with the inverter so we can turn it on and off from the nav station rather than getting inside the engine compartment. We cut into the old display and used it as a bezel for the new one, along with the bonding switch. The only thing left was to test it out. It's in fast charge mode. Voltage is 14.1. I think it started off charging somewhere around 60 or 70 amps, and then it went into float mode before too long. This inverter has a 120 amp charger, and a 50 amp breaker is recommended. Because our boat is only set up for 30 amp service, there is a dial on the side that turns the charging current down and allows us to use it on a 30 amp breaker without worrying about overloading it. Here's my inverter charger wire. This provides AC power to the inverter charger to charge. Doesn't feel warm at all. Drawing almost 15 amps. It was 15 amps when I started. Drawing 15 AC amps from shore power. So far everything seems to be working good with the inverter charger. Cooking and everything. Draining the batteries, charging it up a little bit. I wanted to test it out while we're here on shore. Test it out now instead of out on the water. So far so good. So next episode I'm going to try to wrap up the rest of the wiring we've done. And again, it's never going to end, but I will include the new main switches we installed, along with wiring for the alternator, the starter, fans, and some other miscellaneous stuff. So maybe a couple more techie type videos. Still got to make one from when we dropped the sails and had them repaired, and Danielle sewed up our new bag for the mainsail. Oh, and can't forget the lightning damage video. Yeah. After that, I promise I'll start working on our week-long Gulfport trip, which you can preview here. Alright y'all, thanks for watching. If you have any questions on anything, feel free to drop a comment. And don't forget to do all that other stuff too. Alright, we'll see you guys in the next one.